Hello everybody, welcome back to another chapter of Home Finds Grian by Dragons Are Cool on AO3. Chapter 5, Nightmares. Mumble wasn't terribly surprised to see that Grian hadn't moved so much as a single muscle throughout the night. He was exactly as Mumble had left him, so he let him sleep as he quietly made breakfast. He half expected the smells and sounds to wake him, but they didn't, and neither did lunch. Mumble resolved that he would rouse the avian for dinner, but was glad that he didn't have to when he heard him finally start to stir around 4 o'clock. Grian? He got a very tired grumble in response. How you feeling, bud? Sore. Grian wrestled his arms underneath himself to push himself upright. He aborted the motion with a pained grunt and tried to cover it up with a question grit out tightly through his teeth. How long was I out? Mumbo checked his watch as he rushed over to his side to try and help him. Almost 22 hours, mate. Are you alright? Grian just blinked at him and Mumbo could practically see the gears turning behind those eyes. They were a darker color than the warm brown he remembered. Eventually, he turned his face back down into the pillow and sighed. Everything hurts, he mumbled into the pillow. Mumbo managed to help him sit up enough to eat dinner, but they didn't get much further than that. Grian was moving like he had been hit by a train, even with some pain medicines in his system, and Mumbo couldn't bring himself to make him move more if he didn't have to. The next day, he somehow managed to take a turn for the worse. He was running a low-grade fever and was a little delirious. Thankfully, he seemed with it enough to remember where he was, who Mumbo was. He wasn't sure what he'd do if Grian forgot even that, and started to panic about it. Thankfully, that never came to pass, and his sick spell didn't last more than a couple of days. The inexplicable soreness was sticking around much longer, however. Though it hadn't been causing him any trouble sleeping with how exhausted he was by whatever had happened, Grian had slept like a log. At least, he did until he didn't. Almost 2 weeks after Mumbo had found him, Grian had started feeling well enough to no longer stay bedridden. He followed Mumbo to the spare room where he kept his redstone projects and watched him work. Mumbo had explained what he could as he worked, and watched Grian's eyes glaze over a bit at it, just like when they were kids. Grian would push all the buttons, but not understanding the wire under the hood was not something he excelled at. He had been pleased to see that a stray button Mumbo purposely left out to test him did not go untouched. It gave him more hope that his Grian was still there, even if he wasn't feeling great yet. He hoped that this meant soon that Grian might feel ready to meet his cousin or some of the other hermits. But then that night he was awoken to the tune of broken shrieking. He staggered down the hall, still half asleep, and threw on a lamp in the living room to see Grian tangled up in the sheets and crumpled in a heap hanging off the side of the bed. His cries were interspersed with incomprehensible, desperate pleading. Grian! Mumbo rushed to his side and tried to shake his friend awake. The only thing that stopped him getting a punch in the nose was how hopelessly tied up he was in the blankets. He inched back a bit. Grian, mate, can you hear me? He tried again. Grian, you're safe. Please wake up. He continued on until he saw his friend's eyes open. Grian! Grian's eyes snapped to him, still wide with fear. You all right, mate? It's just a nightmare. You're okay. Grian wiggled in the sheets as he started crying. Mumbo carefully helped to untangle him. The moment Grian was freed enough, he launched himself at Mumbo, who caught him in a hug and held on to him. He rubbed small circles on his back between his wings and waited for him to calm down. "Are you all right?" he asked when Grian sat back against the side of the bed. "Sorry," he muttered, scrubbing at his eyes. "I didn't mean to wake you." "It's okay, really," Mumbo insisted. Do you want to talk about it?" He saw Grian freeze, recognized the look of searching for words he couldn't find. "I lied about not remembering anything, sort of." Grian stared into his lap where he was fiddling with the corner of the sheet he was still partially tangled up in. I don't remember you." Grian curled up a little further. "But after, I remember after." "After?" Mumbo prompted, not wanting to dwell on his friend's missing childhood memories. "After I disappeared?" "Oh." Mumbo winced a bit at his own eloquence. "So, you know what happened then? I mean, obviously you do if you remember it, but oh, pants." He shook his head. But Grian giggled a little at his rambling, so he can't have been blundering too badly. "Yeah, I know what happened." His momentary lightness fell again into a somber mood. "Dad found us, and he..." Grian's tears were building again, and this time Mumbo was right there with him. Grian's dad had been one of their primary caretakers back in their little community in the UK. All the kids loved him until the Watchers had gotten to him. He was brainwashed and turned too dangerous to keep around. And the only way they found to get him away was for Grian and his mother to leave. They fled to the States and lost contact with the rest of them soon after. No one had heard from either of them until Mumbo found Grian in that alley a couple weeks ago. And if his dad was the reason for it, that meant the Watchers had been involved. He'd never blame Grian for pretending to forget something like that. "He gave me to them," Grian whispered through his tears. Mumbo stayed in a stunned silence as Grian poured out the memories he did have. The things he did know. He told of how he was taken, in a way, back to the Watchers as a gift. He described what it had been like with them, what they had done to remake him as an avian, the ways they tried to break him, force him into obedience, the things they made him witness, the things they would try to get him to do, and how would they punish him when he refused, the ways he rebelled, the things they did get him to do. How he'd eventually been able to escape on the very wings they gave him. Mumbo was no longer confused on why Grian was so sick and hungry and sore when he found him. Anyone would after flying across an ocean like that. When Grian's explanation came to a close, Mumbo was at a complete loss for words. So he just offered a hug that was eagerly accepted and didn't let go. They continued to sit there on the floor a while, before either of them found any words again. "I'm glad you're here now," Mumbo finally uttered. "I'm so sorry." They sat there on the floor long enough that Grian was starting to fall asleep again in Mumbo's arms. Mumbo didn't want to be alone, not after hearing a story like that, and Grian wasn't letting go, even as he was falling asleep. So Mumbo finished untangling him from the sheets before scooping him up and carrying him back to his room for a sleepover. Grian kneed him in the side no less than 3 times throughout the night. Each time Mumbo would just pull him closer and fall back asleep. He wouldn't change it for the world. And that is the end of chapter 5.